Hey there, kind listener.
Welcome back.
I don't know if you are actually kind, but you are listening.
Rude listeners too. Hi, welcome back.
Hey, we take all kinds here.
Yeah, we're really not that picky.
Mm-mm.
We're just just trying to make it in this podcast world. What are we doing here?
We do a show called Story Not Story. They probably know that because
You did click on it.
Yeah.
You kind of had to mean it to end up here.
We tell each other stories on the spot, bedtime stories. I mean, they could be for any time, but bedtime's probably optimal.
Sure.
And we take listener submissions for stories.
Do. How do we take listener submissions?
Oh, lots of ways.
Okay, well, that's it.
Yeah.
Just figure out a way.
Go to your rooftop and shout an idea. We live in Texas, so just orient yourself towards Texas.
Yep.
Shout and maybe throw in a yee-haw.
Yeah, that helps carry the idea so that we can hear you.
I mean, yeah, and everyone knows that yee-haw moves sound through Texas faster.
That is, I saw an article about that in the
Texas Weekly?
Scientific American?
Weekly? Okay.
Texas.
Okay, it's Scientific American Weekly, Texas.
Yeah.
Anywho, we also have Twitter. We're Stories in Bed on Twitter. Facebook.com/storynotstory. storynotstorypodcast@gmail. Lots of places.
So many places.
Yeah. But also we give priority to the Patreon supporters. So Patreon.com/storynotstory.
Now, that's not to say that if you don't support us on Patreon that you'll never get your suggestion told, because we very often choose just regular email submissions and all of that. Mm-hmm. But when a good one comes in through the Patreon pipes,
oh boy,
we're gonna snag it up. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Nobody knows what I'm saying.
I think I know what you're saying. You're not being very subtle. I think I get it.
Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, much like we pick up those story submission ideas from patrons.
Oh, bringing it back.
Oh, I don't know if we ever left. So let's do our stories today. Enough of this.
Enough of this riffraff. Mm-hmm. Well, I think you went first last week, so I will go first this week, I guess.
Yes.
Walking over these hot coals of imagination. Yeah. I don't know what I'm saying.
That doesn't make imagination sound very intriguing.
No, it's really uncomfortable.
I would say walking over cold pillows of, not too cold, like temperate pillows of imagination.
Everybody does like a cool pillow though when you're going to sleep. You know, sometimes and then it'll get warm and then you'll flip it over to the other side, the cool side of the pillow, and you'll be like, ah.
I love that. I do that all night long.
Is that why you sleep so poorly?
Yes.
Aw.
Incidentally, Temperate Pillows of Imagination, name of my novel.
Really?
Yeah.
When's that coming out?
2000 and blah. So, are we, okay, we're going to do how about this? Can you tell me a story? China?
Yeah.
Tell me a story about, from Dave. Who, did he email us?
He emailed us, and he called us Lord and Lady Benzene, which I really, really like.
I'm assuming I'm Lady Benzene?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I lord over you.
Yes, you do. Anywho,
this has become a podcast about the problems in our marriage.
Yes. With the longest intro ever.
Yeah.
Okay. So, could you tell me a story, China, about, well, this is what Dave says. He says, have either of you heard the tale about the peg-leg penguin who thought he was a dog? I've heard about it, but I've never been able to track down the story itself.
Ah, yes. This is a classic story.
I've never heard of this story.
Well, I've heard about it, and in fact, it's a story passed down through the generations in my family. It was never written down because we don't like to write things.
You don't know how to write, do you?
Okay, I didn't want to get into this, but yeah, no one in my family ever learned how to write. Mm-hmm. We know English and we can read. It's very weird that we can't write.
Yeah. Because
we can do all the other aspects of language. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so we don't know how to write. And
hey, this isn't a story about your family. Your family's problems.
I'm getting there,
okay.
Okay. So anyway, but this story is actually based on true events. Way back in the day.
When?
Way back in 1802.
1802?
Yes.
Wow, that is a long time ago.
I know, way back in the day.
So it was during the day, this story?
Well, sometimes it was during the day, but then also sometimes it was at night.
Okay.
So my great, I don't keep track of like family tree.
Okay. So this is a family story.
Yeah.
Okay.
I already said that.
Okay. I didn't think you were serious.
Oh, no, I was dead serious. Okay. For the rest of our lives, take everything that I say absolutely seriously.
Nope.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So my great grandmother
sure
was a penguin raiser.
A penguin raiser? Does that mean like someone who raises penguins from the dead?
No, not like zombie penguins. Like
raises. Or she was like a sharp knife that shaped like a penguin.
It's oh my gosh. It's like with livestock, when you have like cows and chickens and goats and stuff, but just take away the cows and chickens and goats and instead put penguins there. It's that.
Okay.
You are very dense.
Okay. Would that be like a penguin farmer?
Well, you're not farming. You're not like planting them and growing them.
Okay.
You're what do they call it?
Like a breeder?
No.
Or a
no.
Okay. I'll be quiet. Let's all just be quiet.
Animal husbandry.
Animal husbandry
is what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, but with penguins in Canada.
Okay.
I'm assuming they have penguins in Canada.
Well, it's really cold there, so yes, I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
I'm sure that it's probably the preferred place.
Back in 1802, they definitely did, because this is a true story from my family.
Okay.
So anyway, she was the best penguin raiser in all the land in Canada and in the world.
She was the best penguin husband?
Yes.
Okay.
She was a very good husband to these penguins.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So anyway, she would raise them and take care of them and feed them and everything. Really, the penguins were raising their own penguin babies, but every once in a while, something would happen. One of the penguin parents would, like, die tragically or whatever. Ooh. I know, this is not necessarily a happy story.
Yours usually aren't.
I know. I am just such a dark person.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, in those instances, she would have to take the penguin eggs and raise them from hatchlings. And one day, she had this penguin egg that she was like incubating and keeping it warm, and she knew it was about to hatch, and it began to hatch. And she waited, and then the baby hatched and came out, and they discovered that this penguin, for some reason, was born with only one leg, which was very unusual. She had never seen this happen before. So,
like, is it a leg, or is it like a flipper? What do they call it?
Well, it's like a leg with a little, like, a webbed foot on the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay.
It's not really a flipper, though.
No.
You don't really know a lot about penguins. I do, because it's in my family.
Yeah. Okay.
So, in most cases in the wild, a penguin with only one leg, it doesn't happen very often. Most of the time it's from some sort of like accident or encounter with a predatory animal or whatever. But most of the time these penguins wouldn't live very long, because they can't fly or anything, and they have to be able to get around. And if they've only got one leg, well, what the heck are they going to do?
It's pretty tough to have one leg.
Yeah.
I think in any situation.
Yeah.
If you're supposed to have two.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also having useless arms.
Yes. That's really rough.
You just have one functional appendage. It's not a good time.
No.
But she, felt a responsibility to this particular penguin. So she decided that she was going to help him. She named him Joe. Mm-hmm. Joe the penguin.
Okay, Joe.
Yeah. And she
what was her name?
Great grandma Etta May.
Etta May.
Yeah.
It's a very classic grandma name.
Yeah. Sounds like a grandma, right?
Does.
It makes my story, it lends credibility to my story.
Yes. I didn't believe it until now.
Yeah, see, now you know that I'm telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So Grandma Etta decided to just raise Joe and figure out how to help him get around with only one leg. And she tried a variety of things. She would carry him around in a little pouch and everything while she was going around doing her other penguin duties.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day she got the bright idea to try to make like a prosthetic leg for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so she made this little like peg leg that fit over the like leg stub that didn't quite develop and everything, and it had like a a flat piece on the end that kind of acted like a web foot.
Sure.
And put it on him, and of course Joe didn't know what to do with this. He just fell right on his face because he'd never.
Yeah. You know what I'm wondering now?
Yeah.
I'm wondering what penguin husbandry.
Yeah.
How is she like? When you're breeding animals or whatever, it's for a farm. It's for you're selling them, or like how is she making money? Why would you even do penguin husbandry?
Well, you're not she's not selling them. They're not like a food animal or anything like that. Actually, they run a little zoo of sorts. So they're just like rescuing penguins and caring for them and then releasing them back into the wild. But when they have them in care, they're running a zoo, and people can pay a nickel to come and see the penguins.
That's how they get the Benjamins.
Yeah.
Well, what would they call them in Canada? They would call them the toonies. That's how they get the toonies.
I think a Benjamin and a toonie are very...
Well, back then, money was different.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep, that's how they made all their money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, while she was taking care of Joe and trying to teach him how to use his new prosthetic leg and everything, she had to keep him inside with her so that she could take care of him because he needed a lot more care. He couldn't really just be out with the other penguins.
Sure.
And a thing I haven't mentioned yet about Grandma Etta is that she also loved dogs. And she had a lot of dogs. Like 2 of them.
Whoa! That's double what we have.
I know, it's so many.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she had these 2 dogs, Click and Clack.
Mm-hmm.
And they...
What? Click and Clack?
Yeah.
Okay.
From the famed podcast.
Okay.
You didn't know those guys were dogs, did you?
These are the same? One and the same? Of Click and Clack?
Yeah.
They used to be dogs, and they were
lived a very
over 200 years old?
Yes.
That's the most amazing thing about this story so far.
I know. We need to go update their Wikipedia page.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
How did you know? What? How? Why? How did they?
In my family.
But they weren't always. They changed into humans after being dogs,
right?
They
did, yeah.
Okay.
They were also wizards. They were...
What? They were wizards?
Yeah, because...
This is a fantasy story?
Yeah, no, wizards can turn into animals, some of them.
Yeah.
Can.
Yeah. Sure, of course.
Like Sirius Black turned into a dog?
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that unbelievable, Craig. So anyway, Click and Clack. We're living inside with Grandma Etta and Joe the penguin.
Could they talk? Could Click and Clack talk?
Well, but Grandma Etta didn't know that. They were undercover. Grandma Etta wasn't a wizard.
Okay.
So...
All right.
Yeah. Couldn't let the muggle know.
All right. I mean, I have so many questions now about Click and Clack, but go ahead.
I'll come back to that never.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So anyway, so Joe's living inside with these dogs, and the dogs are very, they kind of take on like a caring role toward Joe, and as a result, as Joe is growing up, he's interacting more with these dogs and with Grandma Etta than he is with other penguins. And he gets a little confused, let me tell you.
Confused peg-leg penguin.
He begins to think that he's a dog, because that's who he spends most of his time around.
No, I forgot that was the premise of this story.
I also did, until I remembered I needed to force it in there.
Okay, yeah. All right.
So anyway... What happens is that eventually Joe gets pretty good with his prosthetic leg, and Grandma Etta decides, it's time for Joe to go back out and try to live with the other penguins and get reintegrated into the group. And she knows that she's never going to be able to release him into the wild like she is with a lot of these other penguins. But it's important for him to be around other animals of his species and get that like bonding that penguins have.
Sure.
So anyway, so she starts taking him out for like play dates basically with the other penguins, and then as the weeks and months progress and he's getting more used to being out there, he's sleeping out there overnight and staying with the other penguins and all of this. But what she doesn't know, because she doesn't speak penguin, is that...
But Joe does.
No, Joe also doesn't.
Yeah, okay.
Because he hasn't really been around other penguins.
Right.
He's actually having kind of a hard time fitting in.
Aww.
Because he's trying to interact with these other penguins from the perspective of a dog.
Right.
And the other penguins are like, who do you think you are?
So
you are not a dog, you're a penguin. You look like a penguin.
Can you give an example of how Joe tries to interact as a dog? Yeah.
Well, so first of all, Joe, despite only actually having one leg, tries to walk around on four legs. So he tries to use his wings as front legs and like bend over and walk. It's very, very funny to see.
Oh yeah.
If Grandma Etta had Instagram at that time, whoo boy, foof, it would have been hilarious. But she didn't, because it was 1802. So he tries to walk around like a dog, and he like rolls around. What kind of sounds? He tries to mimic like barking sounds and like growling and stuff, but penguin vocal cords aren't really the same as like dog vocal cords, so it doesn't really come out sounding.
I mean, right? I'm wondering what it sounds like.
Well, I wasn't there.
Oh, okay.
But I did hear.
Okay.
This has also been passed down.
Okay.
That it sounded kind of like, I don't really know what sound a penguin makes to begin with.
It doesn't matter. No one does.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounded kind of like,
So that's a penguin trying to sound like a dog.
Yes.
That's totally what I would imagine.
Yeah. It's very believable, isn't it?
I mean, I would imagine more short bursts, like a bark, though. Like,
well, that was like when he was trying to growl. Sometimes if he was trying to bark, he would be like,
very active tongue. It sounds like that penguin has.
Yeah. Yeah. You got it. You nailed it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. So anyway, Joe starts. He's just not fitting in with these other penguins, and he really misses Click and Clack, and he misses Grandma Etta, and so he starts trying to sneak back inside at night when everybody's asleep, and Grandma Etta will wake up, and he's in the living room curled up with Click and Clack, and she's like, "What are you doing in here, you silly Joe? You get back on outside now," because she's a grandma, and that's how they
She sounds like she's from the South, not from Canada, really.
Well. It's Southern Canada.
Southern Canada. Okay, yes, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So she's originally from there, but she lives in Northern Canada at the time of this story because it's colder and penguins.
Yeah, penguins need to be in the cold.
Yeah.
Right. Okay,
apparently.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, but eventually, sorry, the story's getting kind of long. It goes on for a while. Joe lives to be a very old penguin.
That's good.
Yeah. And eventually, Grandma Etta just...
Not as old as Click and Clack, though.
No.
Okay.
Grandma Etta, she just gives up, and she's like, you know what, Joe? If you want to be inside here, I think you're just the houseiest house penguin I ever did see.
Did she say tarnation as well?
Tarnation.
She did. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. And so she just let Joe inside, and he could kind of come and go as he pleased, and they lived a long and happy life together.
Even though he didn't need to fit in with the other penguins.
No, he didn't. He found his place, and he was his own unique individual.
That's great.
And they were best friends, Grandma Etta and Joe. They were best friends, and they died at the exact same time.
What?
So neither of them
year?
ever had to live without the other.
Aww.
It was.
I mean, it's sad
18.
that they died, but you know, most people would be dead that lived in 1802.
Sure.
Aside from Click and Clack.
Yeah. Well, one of them is dead now.
Well, yeah, but they
lived for a very long time. Yeah.
Yes.
They both died in 1824. Yep.
Okay, so the 22 years after this story took place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really know
I was kind of hoping it would be longer, but that's fine. That's good.
Well, she was already a grandma.
I don't care.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant 1834.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. And what happened to Click and Clack?
They started a podcast or a radio show called Car Talk, and they learned a lot about cars when they got invented.
Okay.
And it was great. It's a great show. Yeah. You guys should listen to it.
They laughed a lot.
Yeah, they did.
I bet.
Yeah, and as a result, we laughed a lot.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should maybe try to talk more like the Click and Clack.
I don't know if that's exactly how they talk. That was pretty good.
I think that's pretty much how they talk.
Yep.
Okay, so what's the name of your story?
Joe the Peg-Leg Penguin Dog.
Joe the Peg-Leg Penguin Dog. That's the name of my second novel.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. I plagiarized off of you.
Mm-hmm.
Oops.
Joe the Peg-Leg Penguin Dog.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's the end of my story.
That's good.
All right.
You want to write down the name of that?
Sure.
Joe the Peg-Leg Penguin Dog.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's great. This has been Story Not Story. Thank you for listening. We will see you. What?
It is your turn to tell a story.
Oh. That's right. I got to tell a story.
Yep. And do you want to know what you got to tell a story about?
What am I going to tell a story about?
Well, this suggestion comes from one of our Patreon patrons, Joel Wright, who said, tell a story about a young boy who gets recruited by a bakery to spy on their competitors.
Tell a story of a young boy who gets recruited by a bakery to spy on their competitors.
That is literally what I just said.
I'm just repeating. Sometimes people need... I heard that, like, you need to hear something 7 times before you remember it.
It's a story about a young boy who gets recruited by a bakery to spy on their competitors.
A story about a young boy who gets recruited by a bakery to spy on his competitors, you say?
Uh-huh, that's what I said.
Their competitors.
Yeah, maybe I should repeat it again since you messed it up. A story about a young boy who gets recruited by a bakery to spy on their competitors.
All right, well, listen. I just happen to know and have lived... I mean, I had similar experiences as a young boy, so I can speak from experience.
Sure.
So I'm going to tell you a story of a young boy who gets recruited by a bakery to spy on their competitors.
Okay. I can't wait to find out what the story's going to be about.
How many times have we said that now? 5?
I don't know. Enough, probably.
No, you need to say it 7 times. Anyway.
Story about a young boy
listen.
by bakery and spying on
Once
competitors.
upon a time, there was a boy. There was a young boy. Okay?
Uh-huh.
He wasn't just like an average aged boy.
He was young.
He was young, so he was like... So average aged boy, what would you say? 12?
Probably 12.
13?
Yeah.
So he was more like 8.
Whoa.
Young.
Young.
Right? Young boy. And, well, you see, he was known as being a good spy.
Oh, really?
Around the school. He was kind of a tattletale, if you must know.
I must.
Not many people like a tattletale.
No.
You know? Even though, I mean, people in authority like tattletales because they tell them what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Although a tattletale will turn on them too.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to tattle everything. Tattle, tattle, tattle.
Just a tattle, tattle, tattle.
Yeah. So this boy, his name was Tyler the Tattletale. That was his nickname was Tyler the Tattletale, but his actual name was actually Taylor. So anyway.
Wow, that's very confusing.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Is he going to go by Tyler or Taylor in this story?
Whatever I decide in the moment. So young Tyler, he was out on the playground one day, and Jacob Smiley was with a group of boys over by the twirly slide.
Uh-huh.
You know, the slide that goes around in a circle.
Yeah.
I hate those slides. Because like they're so staticky, I get shocks on them, and then the seams where they're made, like they're bumps and they hurt.
They do hurt.
Just like on water slides, if they're not well made water slides, anyway.
It's just not fun.
Sorry,
it hurts.
I had to go off on a sidetrack.
I understand. This is important to talk about.
Yeah. Anyway, they were hanging out over behind the slide, actually, like underneath it.
Uh-huh. Can't wait to find out what happens.
They were smoking.
No.
Yeah.
They were
smoking
young
salmon.
Oh.
They were taking fish and they were putting them on a spit.
Uh-huh.
And smoking them. I don't know how you smoke fish, but that's what they were doing.
That was a very misleading way to start your sentence.
I'm sorry. Are you telling the story?
They were smoking.
Yeah.
Salmon.
Yes, they were. They were smoking it.
Okay.
But you see, they're not supposed to be smoking salmon on the playground. That's dangerous. That involves fire.
Yeah, sure.
And immediately, young Taylor runs to the teacher who's overseeing the playground, but she's not very good at it. Obviously, there are kids smoking salmon, and she doesn't even notice it.
Uh-huh.
And you know why? Because she was around the corner smoking a cigarette.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Mrs. Petersburgle.
Mrs. Petersburgle.
Mrs. Petersburgle was smoking a cigarette around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor runs around. Mrs. Petersburgle quickly hides. She knows that Taylor's a tattletale, so she hides the cigarette and like holds her breath because there's smoke in her mouth.
Uh-huh.
And Taylor, did I call him Peter? No, I said Petersburgle. Yeah, Taylor was running around the corner.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, Mrs. Petersburgle, oh my God, Jacob Smiley and a bunch of boys are smoking salmon underneath the slide. And she's like, Taylor. That's what she said in her mind, but she was actually like, because she was holding smoke in her mouth.
Right.
Yeah. But if she were to say it out loud, she'd sound like this, Taylor. Because when you smoke a lot, you get gravelly voice and you sound like you're from the East Coast.
Yeah, that's how all smokers sound.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I don't smoke.
I know. You don't want to sound like you're from the East Coast.
No.
No, because you're not from the East Coast.
Yeah, that would be disingenuous.
You're from Texas. Yeehaw. Anyway, she's thinking, Taylor. No, she's saying, she's thinking, Taylor, tattling on the boys again. And
she's still not concerned about them smoking salmon?
Well, she's a little concerned about that as well. But she doesn't care that much. She's not a good teacher.
Right.
But anyway, she tattled. So then, Mrs. Petersburgle has to go down and talk to them. So she goes down to the boys, and she's like, "Hey, it must be cold. You could see my breath for a second. Hey, Jacob, you need to stop that right now." Taylor. He's like, "What? Who told you?" "Taylor, of course." He's like, "Taylor," and so she sends Jacob to detention, to the principal's office.
Sure.
And principal's like, "Hey, Jacob, listen, this is the fourth time we've caught you smoking salmon." He's like, "No, I was smoking walleye before." Yeah. And he's like, "It doesn't matter. You can't smoke anything." Principal Smithtown, that's his name.
Okay.
He's like, "You have to go home. We're sending you home for a few days.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna deal with your parents."
Whoa.
So Jacob goes home, but he doesn't really go. Well, he goes home, but connected to the home is the family bakery.
Okay, I was wondering when the bakery was gonna come in.
See, that's why he's so interested in smoking fish, because it's a culinary family. Really.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and smoked fish goes really well with fresh baked bread.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Yeah.
He learned how to smoke fish from his dad. So he goes to his dad. He's like, I gotta be here. Well, you gotta be in school, son. And his dad, whose name is Dad, actually.
That's a weird name.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, I just didn't feel like thinking of another name. Anyway, he says, Jacob, what did I tell you about smoking fish in school? You only smoke fish at home. That's the rule. And he's like, but I just wanted to practice. Like, how did, what? And then he's like, Taylor told the teacher. Taylor did. That kid's a tattletale. And then he's like, the Johnsonvilles just opened a bakery across the street, and everyone loves their what's that bread called?
Hot buns.
They're hot buns. Yeah, everyone loves their hot buns.
I've heard about their hot buns. They're supposed to be really good.
Yeah, the Johnsonville hot buns?
Classic.
This is before the brats, the Johnsonville brats. Are you aware of the brats?
Oh, I'm aware of the brats. I think they were invented to put on the hot buns.
They were. That's later, though. That's a different story.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, it's like, I need to figure out the recipe for those hot buns. And Taylor's just the man to do it. But Jacob's like, but you can't ask him to do that because it's illegal and he'll tell on you. Yeah.
Double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to make him think that it's legal, Dad said. And then, so after school, Tyler, the tattletale, is walking home. And Dad walks out from the bakery, from Dad's bakery. And he's like, wait, what did I say Jacob's last name was?
Smiley.
Yeah, it's a Smiley. It's Dad's bakery, but
Dad Smiley.
Dad Smiley walks out, and he's like, Taylor, get over here, please. And Tyler, is the tattletale, is like, well, I'm not supposed to talk to this. You know me. My name is Dad. I'm basically like talking to your dad. And he's like, actually, you're right. I do know you, Dad Smiley. My dad buys your hot buns every day. And he's like, yeah, speaking of my hot buns, I may have to discontinue them because someone else is selling supposedly better hot buns across the street.
I just like that this dad is talking to a young boy about his hot buns.
Yeah, what is that? So? It's food.
It's just interesting.
I don't get what you're saying.
It's
anyway,
just very interesting.
So Dad. He's like, listen. We already. See, you interrupted me and I forgot what I said. So.
Sorry.
Jacob said, or not Jacob, that's his son. Tyler, the tattletale, says, what? Discontinue your hot buns? The other ones can't be better. Oh, really? Maybe you should go find out for yourself if they're better. And then find out why they might be better. Why other people might think that they're better. Particularly the people who cook them. He's like, but how am I supposed to find out how the people that cook? Ask them. Ask them what they do to make them taste so good. And maybe then grab their recipe book. But that would be stealing, Dad. No, that's not stealing, Tyler the tattletale. And he's like, but yeah, it is. It's like, no, it's not. Yeah, it is. No, it's not. Yeah, it is. And they go back and forth for a little while, and then Dad gets really loud and goes, no, it's not. Here's a free hot bun. And he's like, this hot bun is so delicious, I forgot what we were talking about. I'm going to go do the things you asked. And then Tyler, the tattletale, goes to the Johnsonville bakery, and he walks inside. It's crowded. It is crowded. So crowded that there's another syllable in the word crowded.
Big line at the Johnsonville bakery, huh?
Yeah, and everyone's talking about the hot buns. The hot buns are hot. They are hot buns.
Literally?
Well, they're also literally hot as well. So that's why they're called hot buns.
Yeah, fresh out of the oven.
Right.
A hot bun sounds really good right now.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not that hungry, but yeah, it does.
I'm kind of hungry.
Well, I'm sorry I'm telling you this story then, but we have to get through it.
Okay.
So, there's a line. He has to wait in line, and everyone's like, "Have you had the hot buns? Hey, Sonny, I'm here for the hot buns. You should try the hot buns." Everyone's like that. Everyone talks like they work for the press in the 1930s. Yeah.
What year is it?
1945.
Okay.
The war had just been won.
So probably some of these people had worked for the press in the 1930s.
Yeah. That's why they talk like this.
Okay.
Yeah. And the war had just been won, and it's sort of everyone just making babies and eating hot buns. You know.
That's the life.
It is. Well, yeah, but they had to get through war to get to that life. I mean, not a good. So they've seen some stuff.
Sure,
you know?
Sure.
It's not.
I'm not saying it's all good. I'm just saying at that moment, making babies and eating hot buns doesn't sound so bad.
Doesn't sound so bad. Nope. Anyway, Tyler the Tattletale. Tyler the Tattletale is waiting in line, and he's waiting a long time, and he gets up to the counter, and he's like, "Excuse me, sir, may I have one of your hot buns?" And he's like, "Sure, that will be 10 cents." And Tyler's like, oh, I don't have any money. And he's like, well, sorry, buddy. You can't have it. And he's like, okay, but why are they so good? Everyone's saying they're so good. Why are they so good? And the guy behind the counter, Ralph Macchio.
Whoa.
Yeah. He's Italian.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. He's like, well, the secret is love. And Tyler's like, cut the crap. That doesn't make any sense. Why are they good? Well, the secret's love and a lot of sugar. And then Tyler's like, oh, could I see the recipe book? And he's like, no. And Tyler starts, he didn't like his tone. He was very mean when he said no, and Tyler starts to cry.
Oh.
And he's like, oh, I can't deny a boy, a crying boy. And so he's like, all right, he's just a kid. It's fine. It doesn't. And then he hands him the recipe book.
Wow, this guy is pretty easily manipulated.
Well, he's like, he probably can't even read. What's this gonna mean? What does it matter? He can't even read.
Yeah, because he's so young.
Yeah, exactly. And so Tyler takes the recipe, crying and wiping his eyes with the recipe. He goes over to Dad's bakery. It's like, I couldn't eat them, but they said it has a lot of sugar. Well, mine have a lot of sugar, says Dad.
Oh, jeez.
And, well, they also have love. Oh, see, I didn't put any love in mine because I hate making them.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It is a pretty complicated process, though.
Yeah, and Tyler hands him the recipe book, or the paper that has the recipe on it, and it's all smudged from his tears.
Oh, no. What are they gonna do?
Dad's like, well, I guess I could try this love thing. And so he tries to smile a lot while he's making his hot buns. And putting a lot of sugar in them. And while smiling so hard, like his eyes water from all the smiling. And he too begins to cry as he's making them. Next day, he brings out his hot buns, and he starts serving them. Mrs. Pittlemore comes in, and that's the first thing that came to my mind. And she's a regular. She has. Even though Johnsonville's hot buns are so good, every day she comes to Dad's bakery to get hot buns.
Well, it's got a lot shorter line too.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. To be honest with you, that's part of it. Yeah.
She lives a busy life.
Yeah, she does. And she's like, Dad, may I have a hot bun? And he's like, oh, sure, I put extra love in him today, Mrs. Pittlemore. And he gives her a hot bun, and she takes a bite, and she spits it out. She's like, what is this salty crap? And she walks over to Johnsonville.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And then Dad decides to maybe try other recipes instead of hot buns. And the next day, for the first time, he serves Jacob's smoked salmon. And it does pretty well.
All right.
People like it, and his business survives. Johnsonville does a little better, and then they come out with the brats, and they become really famous. But Dad's Bakery survives, and it does fine. And Tyler the Tattletale grows up to be director of the FBI.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
And
under Eisenhower.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
What's the lesson here? I feel like Dad maybe should have learned a lesson.
Well, he did. Yeah, he learned a lesson. He should be himself. Do what he wants.
Be yourself.
Yeah.
Smoke some salmon.
Yeah, or be your son.
Be your son.
Yeah, or maybe what you need is right in front of you. And think outside the box. Don't just do what other people are doing.
Yeah, and don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Don't put all your hot buns in one bucket of tears.
And if you try to steal a recipe, you might kill 2 buns with one
Salmon. Yeah, okay, anyway.
What's your story called?
Wait, if you try to steal a What?
I don't know. We were gonna just blow past it, and now we're back.
Oh, sorry, I had to analyze that. Anyway, my story?
Yeah, what's it called?
Tyler and the Hot Bun Fiasco.
I like it.
Tyler and the Hot Bun Fiasco. We do a lot of the name and the titles.
They're compelling.
They're pretty good. Tyler and the Hot Bun Fiasco. Yeah.
It's especially interesting because this kid's name is Taylor.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but his nickname is Tyler the Tattletale.
I know. So. It's just very hard to follow.
Well, no, I think we got it.
We got it.
Yeah, you followed.
I followed.
Yeah.
I'm right here with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
What?
Another hit of an episode in the bag.
I feel like we nailed it.
We nailed it.
So...
Thanks for your suggestions.
Yeah.
Guys. And send in more suggestions. I mean, we got a lot of suggestions, but we always love getting new ones.
Yeah.
And
we have many more stories to tell that we haven't made yet.
Yeah, like at least 5 more.
At least.
Minimum.
Well, minimum 1 more. Minimum none more.
Sure.
I mean that, but we have a lot.
Probably more than just
probably many
none.
more. Yes.
Yeah.
And you can send your story suggestions to storynotstorypodcast@gmail.com. You could send them to our Facebook, facebook.com/storynotstory.
Yeah.
Twitter, Stories in Bed. And our Patreon page. If you really want to bump your story suggestion up a notch, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/storynotstory.
Should we tell them about the new perk that we're thinking of introducing?
There's one perk on there that we should re-mention, which is once a month you just get an extra story.
Yeah, we tell an extra story.
Just for you patrons. And we just came up with a new perk idea, which we haven't put on the page yet. We don't know what level it will be.
But we're going to work on it, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks have it up.
Yeah, every time we sit down to record these, we do a test recording, or several.
Several test recordings before we actually start recording the podcast.
And they usually yield hilarious results.
They're pretty wonderful, and we think that should not go to waste.
I've been deleting them, but instead I'm going to save them and give them to patrons for a perk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll be great.
It'll be great.
It'll be great.
It'll be great.
Yep.
That's my Scottish accent.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think that concludes this week's episode of Story Not Story. Hey, if you like our podcast, why don't you tell your siblings about it?
Tell your grandma and your great-great-great-great-grandma, and tell, maybe if you have immortal dogs, tell them.
Yeah, if you have a great-great-great-great-great-grandma named Etta May, especially, tell her, even though she's probably dead.
On that note, I hope you have a wonderful night.
Good night.
Good night.